Hey guys, this is part one of a multi-part series where I'll be restoring this old 286 computer. I picked up a motherboard on eBay a year and a half ago, maybe. I was waiting for a proper AT case to come along. Now, I live in a rural part of eastern Canada, so desktop cases like this are extremely difficult to find. And when you do find one, well, unfortunately, you generally end up paying more than you want to. But this one's in half decent shape, so I figured it was a good candidate for restore. And of course, it didn't look like this when I got it. It looked more like this. It had some pretty bad scuffs on the front. You can see a hint of the rust on the inside there. Front panel looks pretty good though. Not much yellowing. Micro Digitech. Never heard of them. Gotta wonder how long that company was around. And the same with the computer hospital. Oh, and it also came with one of these floppy adapter brackets. And unfortunately only one mounting rail. We'll have to do something about that as well. On the inside, we've got rust. And quite a lot of it. Spot is particularly bad here. Power supply looks like it might be a little dirty. Oh, but that switch sounds good. I like that. And moving on to the back. Yeah, we've got a Velcro patch there. Now they probably had an external CMOS battery pack. I've got a funny feeling that battery pack might have leaked. The paint underneath that Velcro looks pretty rough. Yeah, you see that's just flaking right off there. And yeah, our power supply, not looking too healthy. I'll have to open that up in a moment or two. But we'll get to that. Even these screws are rusted. That's just nasty. And on the inside, we've got more rust. Oh, and some graffiti. Probably the last guy that worked on this box. And most of that seems to be surface rust. Should clean up pretty well. Okay, so the power supply. Just a quick disclaimer. The capacitors in power supplies can store dangerous voltages for quite a long time. Unless you really know what you're doing, you probably shouldn't open a power supply. So that having been said, let's take a look inside this thing. And yeah, it's a little dirty, I'm not gonna lie. Now, this PC board has a bit of a bow in it. There's no support underneath, so that's no great surprise after probably 30-something years. Now that fan turns really smooth. That may actually still be okay. Well, let's take an air compressor to this, give it a good cleaning, and get a better look at what we've got here. And after the air compressor's done its job, that looks a whole lot better. Oh, and check it out, we got rust. And that fan is really smooth. I don't know if that was replaced at some point. I doubt it. Ooh, yeah, that transistor doesn't look too healthy. It's kind of bent right over. That may even be shorted. That's this guy right here. Now, I'll check that out later. Now, I'm going to order a bunch of replacement capacitors just in case. I have a feeling a lot of these are probably leaky. Ooh, and that transformer core is loose. That's a little disconcerting. But while I'm waiting for those replacement parts, let's turn our attention back to the case. We'll do a little bit of cleanup. Now we got that sticker on there. Goodbye, Computer Hospital. I wonder if you're still in business. And of course, it left behind all that sticky residue. I find a little bit of WD-40 and a gentle scrape will take care of that. Rub that in. And I'll just use my fingernails to scrape at that. The sticker residue will actually ball up and turn into this disgusting jelly that wipes right off. And yeah, check it out. That's all sticky and gross. But a little bit of glass cleaner and some elbow grease took it right off. You'd never know that sticker was there. Turning our attention to the inside, I've taken some steel wool to the metal parts of the case here. Now this was actually painted, so I've scrubbed off the remnants of that paint as well. There's still spots in here that I just can't get at, and I probably never will. But it does look a whole lot better than it did. Got most of our graffiti off there. And that really bad spot in the drive cage, yeah, that's better than it was. Not perfect, but it'll do. Yeah, there's that one spot that I'm just never going to get at. I can get my hand in there, but no. Well, that's all right. After this is all cleaned and dried out, I'll probably give it a coat of clear acrylic just to prevent the rust from getting any worse. And yeah, that spot on the back with the Velcro, there must have been a battery pack there because it etched right into the metal. That is just corroded. So I'm going to sand that down, and I'll actually repaint the back of the chassis and the front portion as well. So back to our power supply. My capacitors arrived, and I've got them installed. Isn't that a thing of beauty? Straightened out that transistor. Now I'm going to test this with a small load. I've got an IDE hard drive connected to this power supply. Well, the older power supplies needed a considerable load before they would switch on. So I'm going to try this with a bigger load. I've got a 386 motherboard. That's just a dead board I use for parts. Let's see if that's enough to bring this thing back to life. And we're back in business. Now I'm going to run it for a while, of course, make sure there's no issues, check all the voltage rails. But it looks like we're back in business here. I'll get the cover back on the power supply, get it installed into the case. And speaking of case, took a magic eraser to the front panel here. There's a couple of spots that, yeah, they're showing their age. Oh, and I found another case badge underneath that Micro Digitech CCS computers. So I've removed the Micro Digitech, brought the case right back to stock. Got to wonder about the history of this thing. Was it sold under CCS, resold later under Micro Digitech? No idea. I still love that power switch. The only major cosmetic damage that we've got left is this big ding on the corner here. The case must have been dropped at some point. Well, fully loaded, it weighs about 30 pounds, so that's really no great surprise. And looking at the back, got it all repainted. Yeah, there's a couple of minor flaws in the paint job. A couple of ripples here and there. You really can't see them live in person. They only show up under the harsh light of my camera phone. Yeah, you see them right here. But that's okay. I can live with that. And here's the front. Repainted there as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I do have that coat of clear acrylic. So that rust is still there, but it's entombed in clear acrylic, so it's not going to get any worse. Now, I could have tried some CLR. I've seen other guys use that trick before. Unfortunately, I didn't discover it until after I'd done the work on this case. And you can see that spot in there. I can touch it and I can see it, but I can't get anything in there to scrape that rust out. And here we are with the motherboard installed. That's a 286 motherboard. Still have to hook up all the front panel LEDs and whatnot. But we've got a serial parallel card in here. There's a 16-bit VGA video card and a hard drive and floppy controller. Now for a hard drive, I've got my compact flash adapter here. Unfortunately, I don't have the proper power connector for the compact flash adapter. That uses the floppy style. But I believe I've got an adapter kicking around. Oh, and I also found this little nylon standoff in the corner of the case. That would have been right in here. So this case probably had a full-sized AT motherboard at some point. Could have been a 286, could have been a 3. Again, I don't know the history of this computer, so I really can't say. Drop a comment down below. What do you think it had for a motherboard initially? And here we are in the back. Yeah, you see my 48 meg compact flash card in there. And I still have to replace these I/O port covers. They were pretty rusted. I'm cleaning those up. I'll put them back in. But for now, let's get this thing powered up and make sure everything works. Okay, so here we are on the bench. Computer's powered on. You can hear the hum of that power supply in the background. And I found the floppy power adapter for my compact flash card. That CPU is still wet with contact cleaner. And 286 chips get very hot. So I'll talk more about the motherboard in part 2. Part 1 is primarily concerned with the case and power supply, getting all the hardware installed and running. Oh, and by the way, don't worry about that barrel battery. That's only in there temporarily, and on top of that, it's actually a brand new battery. I'll be replacing that with a proper CR2032 later on. And all the front panel is connected. We've got our LEDs. obligatory turbo switch and corresponding LED. So that's about it for part 1. I've got the case and power supply restored, motherboard installed. And part 2, I'm going to take a look at the bezel, that adapter for the floppy drive. Yeah, that brown just really doesn't look right in there. I want to fix that. We're going to get these floppy drives connected, and we'll talk more about the motherboard as well. There's an interesting story behind that one. So if you enjoyed this one, thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in part 2.